Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurtushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarurvyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you so much to all who have joined in this session of Sri Ishopanishad study. We are going to look at mantra 12 today. So this mantra begins a new section in the book. In the previous three mantras, we discussed about vidya and avidya. Two things, knowledge and ignorance. Now from mantra 12 onwards till mantra 14, two other subject matters will be discussed. These are called in Sanskrit sambhuti and asambhuti. In English means proper kind of worship and improper kind of worship, or worship of the absolute and worship of the relative. So this is the theme. And the approach, the style is quite similar to the style that was taken up in the previous three mantras. Like the mantra 9 told us, avidya is bad, vidya is much more bad. Then mantra 10 told, avidya and vidya gives two different results. And mantra 11 said, one should cultivate both avidya and vidya. Likewise, mantra 12 is going to say that worship of the non-absolute is bad, but worship of the absolute is bad. Much more bad. Now that is again confusing in one sense. So we will look at it, how it is explained by Srila Prabhupada and the other acharyas. Let's open mantra number 12. So mantra number 12 goes like this. Andham tamaha pravishyanti ye sambhutim upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo ya u sambhutyam rataha. I read it again. Andham tamaha pravishyanti ye asambhutim upasate. So what does this mean? Those who worship asambhuti, they will enter into andham, gross ignorance. They will enter into that. But what about those who worship sambhuti? So the next line says, one who does that, tato bhuya ivate tamaha, means greater ignorance. That person will enter into greater ignorance who worships sambhuti, the absolute. So this is a bit contradicting. Okay. This is the mantra which we just recited. Sambhutim, asambhutim. Two words, like vidya and avidya. Let's read the translation. We will look at the explanation in the presentation later. We'll first read the translation here. So the translation is, those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Now here, demigods are being referred to using the Sanskrit word asambhuti. Okay, asambhuti in this mantra refers to demigods. Fine. And then the next line says, and still more do so the worshippers of the impersonal absolute. So impersonal absolute is taken as the meaning of the word Sambhuti. So the word Sambhuti refers to the impersonal absolute, and the word Asambhuti refers to the demigods in this mantra. Now, in the other mantras that are going to come ahead, the meaning may change for the same word. Just like in the previous section we saw, Vidya in one place meant something, Avidya meant another thing. Like that, the word meaning may change. Let me share the screen so we can read from there. Okay. Fine. Those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of the impersonal absolute. So from here we understand that demigod worship is actually in one sense a bit better than worship of impersonal absolute. Demigod worship is better. Anyone can say why is it better? Why? Demigods are not absolute, but their worship is better than worship of the impersonal absolute. Why so?
Because they have a personal form.
Because the worshippers understand that there is a personal form, right? The demigods have a personal form, and the worshippers, they accept the existence of personal form. So personalism is always given more importance than impersonalism. Though it is impersonal worship of the absolute, it is considered lower category than personal worship of the demigods. And then personal worship of the Supreme Lord will be considered definitely greater than the personal worship of the demigods. So this is the reason. Purport. The Sanskrit word asambhuti refers to those who have no independent existence, which means anyone and everyone except Krishna. Sambhuti is the absolute personality of Godhead who is absolutely independent of everything. In the Bhagavad Gita 10.2, the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna states, Na me vidu suragana prabhavam na maharshayah aham adir hidevana maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. Thus Krishna is the origin of the powers delegated to demigods, great sages and mystics. Although they are endowed with great powers, these powers are limited, and thus it is very difficult for them to know how Krishna himself appears by his own internal potency in the form of a man. Many philosophers and great rishis or mystics try to distinguish the absolute from the relative by their tiny brain power. This can only help them reach the negative conception of the absolute without realizing any positive trace of the absolute. Definition of the absolute by negation is not complete. Such negative definitions lead one to create a concept of one's own. Thus, one imagines that the absolute must be formless and without qualities. Such negative qualities are simply the reversals of relative, material qualities, and are therefore also relative. By conceiving of the absolute in this way, one can at the utmost reach the impersonal effulgence of God, known as Brahman. But one cannot make further progress to Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So the concept that is being explained here is naiti naiti. The Gyanis, they will say, this is not God, this is not God, this is not God, this is not God. So they try to understand the spiritual truth by negation. What is God, they don't know. But this is not God, that they know. Because this is matter and this cannot be God. So like that, they keep on cancelling everything that comes in their material experience. With the idea, by cancelling out the negative, we will become self-realized. Now, here the point which is being explained, to some of us it may sound, well, how does it matter for me? I am not an impersonalist. I never do this neti business. So how does it matter for me? Whether it will really be an obstacle in my progress in Krishna consciousness. So we discussed this last time. Basically, the principle of 𝗖𝗍 is not limited to only the impersonalists. The principle of 𝗖𝗍 can also be misused by a devotee. In the sense, a devotee goes around always thinking throughout the day, this is not Krishna consciousness, this is not Krishna consciousness, this is not Krishna consciousness, this is not Krishna consciousness. But at the end of the day, that person doesn't realize, did I spend time being Krishna conscious? Or I was only analyzing whether this is Krishna consciousness or not Krishna consciousness. So the idea is like this: when we are in the association of devotees, sometimes we just move around with a radar on our head, trying to judge. Is this devotional service? Is this devotional service? Is this devotee a devotee? Is this a good devotee? So we are always just analyzing this. Is this Krishna consciousness? Is this pure devotional service? But we don't really put time and energy in practicing pure devotional service or practicing Krishna consciousness. So that is the concept of 𝗖𝗍, which means a lot of thinking is going on, a lot of analysis is going on, but not application of Krishna conscious principles in one's own life. So by that, what happens? A person becomes impersonal. A person tends to become impersonal. So this becomes a pitfall even in the practice of Krishna consciousness. We move further. Such mental speculators do not know that the absolute personality of Godhead is Krishna, and that the impersonal Brahman is the glaring effulgence of his transcendental body, or that the Paramatma, the super soul, is his all-pervading plenary representation. Nor do they know that Krishna has eternal form with its transcendental qualities of eternal bliss and knowledge. The dependent demigods and great sages imperfectly consider him to be a powerful demigod, and they consider the Brahman effulgence to be the absolute truth. But the devotees of Krishna, by dint of their surrendering unto him and their unalloyed devotion, can know that he is the absolute person and that everything emanates from him. Such devotees continuously render loving service unto Krishna, the fountainhead of everything. Now, to make it simple for all to understand, basically to be attracted to the Brahman effulgence of the Supreme Lord means to be attracted to God's powers. One is attracted to God's powers. One is attracted to God's greatness. One is attracted to God's super intelligence or complete knowledge. But one is not attracted to the idea that however God may be, I am a servant of God. Let me serve God. This also happens in our relationship with the devotee. We may be attracted to a devotee's nice singing. We may be attracted to a devotee's very nice classes. We may be attracted to a devotee's external qualities. Someone can cook nicely, someone can sing nicely, someone can dance nicely, someone can give a lecture nicely, someone can do book distribution nicely, someone can raise funds nicely. So we may be attracted to these qualities of devotees, but we may not be so much interested in serving the devotees. We may be only interested in qualities because we may think, if I associate with such a person, then I'll also get these qualities. But we may not be interested in serving the person. So here, the same mistake happens with the demigods. They get interested in Krishna's greatness. Why that interest is there? Because there is an attraction towards being great oneself. So that interest is there. Otherwise, for those who are pure devotees of Krishna, it hardly matters whether Krishna is that great or not great. It doesn't matter because they are not interested to that factor. They're interested in serving Krishna. If Krishna is not God, still they'll serve Krishna. And if Krishna is God, still they'll serve Krishna. Right? But the demigods, they serve Krishna only because Krishna is God, he has powers. Similarly, our devotion to a pure devotee also may not be because that pure devotee is a person and I like that person. It may be just because that pure devotee has some extraordinary powers, which pure devotees always have. Or any devotee who is better than me will be having, materially, spiritually. So then I'll be attracted to the powers, but I'll not be attracted to the person. Right? And then attraction to those powers exists because I have an inclination to have similar powers. But attraction towards the devotee means I want to be always a servant to that person and I just want to serve that person. So these things are very subtle obstacles which come on the path of Krishna consciousness as we make progress. As we make progress. That's why in Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada writes in one place, don't be envious of your guru. Now to a newcomer, it may sound, how is it possible? How can I be envious of my own guru? You know, but as we make progress, then we can see, yes, sometimes we are envious of our own guru also. That why this person is so famous? Why can't I become that famous? Why this person is getting so much of worship? Why I can't get that kind of worship? You know? So this person, why is he the torch bearer? And if he is the torch bearer, then I think I should be the next. You know? So then those tendencies creep in a very subtle manner, which is subtle sense gratification, not kara, which is subtle sense gratification. So why? Because there is more attraction towards the external attribute, external, than the person himself or herself. And pure devotional service means there is more attraction to the person, not this external great quality or great aura of that person, which means power of that person. So here we further read in the Bhagavad Gita 7.23. Did we read the previous one? No. But the devotees of Krishna, by dint of this surrendering unto him and their absolute, I read that. In the Bhagavad Gita 7.20-23, it is said that only unintelligent, bewildered persons driven by a strong desire for sense gratification worship the demigods for the temporary relief of temporary problems. Only unintelligent people worship the demigods for the temporary relief of temporary problems. Now here, the idea which is presented applies to a little standard kind of people who existed in the past, who basically knew who demigods are. When it comes to modern situation, most of the people who do demigod worship, they don't even know who the demigod is, whom they are worshipping. Right? If you ask them, you are worshipping Durga Devi, tell me something. So they'll tell you some story which they watched in the TV serial and say, this is Durga Devi. So they don't even know properly about Durga if they are worshipping Durga. They don't know about Ganesha if they are worshipping Ganesha. They don't know about Shiva if they are worshipping Shiva. So here we are talking about standard worshippers of demigods. Right? At present, even that is not left. We have only people who have in inheritance got some style of worship from the mother and father, and one is just continuing that. My mother used to do this, I am also doing this. But not having proper understanding why this should be done, who is this demigod, that knowledge is not there. So those who worshipped demigods for temporary relief of temporary problems, they are being called unintelligent here. Since a living being is materially entangled, he has to be relieved from material bondage entirely to attain permanent relief from the spiritual plane where eternal life, bliss, and knowledge exist. Sri Ishopanishad therefore instructs that we should not seek temporary relief of our difficulties by worshipping the dependent demigods who can bestow only temporary benefit. Rather, we must worship the absolute personality of Godhead Krishna, who is all attractive and who can bestow upon us complete freedom from material bondage by taking us back home, back to Godhead. If the temporary reliefs helps us in becoming better devotees, then why not go for temporary reliefs? If the temporary relief helps us in becoming better devotees, then why not go for temporary reliefs? What's the problem? Like, let's say I have a problem in my leg, isn't it? So I can just tolerate that problem. But if I cure that problem, then if it helps me to be more comfortably seated, then perhaps I can chant my japa nicely, I can do other things nicely. So why not go for the temporary relief for the problem? Why not? What's wrong with it? How is it going to hamper my devotional service? Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, because that is a temporary solution, it might reoccur.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So the point is, such temporary problems have no end. Yes, one problem will have a temporary solution, but then it's not that that problem is over, everything is over. Such temporary problems will keep on coming, right? You'll keep on coming. It's not that one is done, I am done. Okay, if that was the situation, then do away with it. You solve one problem and then no problems in life. Then we sit and chant Hare Krishna. But that's not going to happen. The nature of the world is that problems will keep on coming. That's why when we see those who are advanced devotees, they are also not so much bothered about the temporary problems created by one's own body and mind. No, that's how they finally are able to control the urges of the tongue, the urges of the belly, the urges of the mind, because they know it's all temporary. Ultimate understanding is what? My attraction should be towards the permanent. That's what makes one a spiritualist. As per Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, shloka number 16. Na asato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha. Means a person who is interested actually in Krishna consciousness or spiritual life should be always interested in the permanent goal, permanent achievement, permanent happiness. Now that's an attitude. That's a totally different kind of attitude, that I don't go for the temporary, which is easily available, but I go for the permanent, which may be very difficult to attain. Because I am not interested in temporary arrangements. After all, if you look at it, even those problems which we say, well, if this problem gets solved, then I can perhaps become a better devotee. That is, in your situation, a problem for you. But for an advanced devotee, the same situation will not be a problem. Right? So, to the level we are advanced, we won't get disturbed by these temporary problems. This means the demigod worshippers are very low in Krishna consciousness or God consciousness. That's why they become too easily disturbed by temporary problems. And those who are evolved in their consciousness, problems exist for them also, but then they don't get disturbed by it. They don't get disturbed by it. Same problems will exist for them, same problems, but they will not get disturbed. But those who are in lower level of consciousness, they will get easily disturbed. To give an example, for someone who is in advanced consciousness, if that person doesn't get a meal in one day, that person won't get disturbed. But someone who is not so advanced in consciousness, if one doesn't get one meal a day, then that person will become very disturbed. Oh, I did not eat. Without eating, how will my body survive? How will I be healthy? What if I get weak? What if I get weak? What if I fall down while walking? So many different kinds of thoughts will start coming. Because the dependence on material arrangement is very strong. Right? So here, when it says temporary solutions for temporary benefits, it depends on how advanced we are. If we are not so advanced, we need temporary solutions. Otherwise, we will be in so much anxiety that we will not be able to focus on the permanent. We need temporary solutions. Like, for example, I'm feeling some kind of need for my body or for my mind. We know it's temporary. It's not permanent, right? But if I solve it, then I'll have a peaceful mind and I can engage that mind in Krishna consciousness. right? But then is it the same? Is it going to be the same for everyone? Not for everyone. Not for everyone. So here when Prabhupada is talking that we should not be interested in temporary solutions for temporary problems, he is speaking to an audience of that caliber of consciousness. Right? He's speaking to an audience of that caliber of consciousness. Those who are demigod worshippers and who are at this level, for them it will be difficult to digest this statement. They'll not be able to digest this statement. Only those whose consciousness has come above demigod worship, they'll be able to digest this statement. Okay, yeah, this is very easy, normal, no problem. But those who are in the level of demigod worship, for them it will be very difficult to digest this statement. They say, oh, if problems don't get solved, how will we live? How will I be a normal person? I'll be always in anxiety. I'll be always frustrated in life. So the problem must be solved immediately. So in this way, we need to understand that Srila Prabhupada in his books, he's talking to an audience of a certain kind of consciousness. Those who are ready to leave that level of dependence on demigods to come to Krishna. He's mentioning about them. Okay. Yes, Mataji, you have anything to say here?
Yes, Prabhu. I just felt that though we are spirit soul, but then we do have a material body. So, and in order to practice bhakti, we need to keep our body and soul together. So it may be to the bare minimum, like, for example, like I'm feeling hungry, I have to take food. But to purify that activity, I'll take only prasadam and I'll take something simple. I'll not waste so much of time in cooking. So we may bring it down, but at the same, I know it's a temporary thing, but at the same time, it has to be addressed. So somewhere the balance has to be made wherein we are able to make sufficient time for practicing bhakti, and at the same time, despite knowing that this is temporary problem and it's a temporary solution, at the same time we have to do that also.
Yeah, that is there. So that's what I mentioned at the end, but it's going to be different from different people. For some, a particular problem which is needed to be solved is not necessary to be solved for someone else, because it at the end depends on one's level of consciousness. So for someone, a particular problem may be a very big problem. It must be solved so that person can peacefully practice Krishna consciousness. And for the other person, that same problem will not be such a big problem that that person has to spend time solving that problem. Because for that person, no, it's okay. This is there, it will go. Isn't it? It is there, it will go. Right? So that's why sometimes it also happens that when devotees are in some rare situations, not a general situation, sometimes some very rare situation where we need the help of the demigods, then some devotees can also take the help of the demigods. Though they may are practicing Krishna consciousness purely, sometimes if they need the help of the demigods, they can take the help of the demigods also, if required. Like, to give an example, in Mahabharata, why Krishna told Arjuna, get 𝗵𝗲𝗶𝗿𝗲 from Lord Shiva? Why? Though Arjuna is a devotee of Krishna, no? So he could, why Krishna is saying, go to Lord Shiva and get 𝗵𝗲𝗶𝗿𝗲? It's a material thing which Arjuna is going to get from Lord Shiva. And that material thing will help Arjuna to do his seva of serving Krishna. Isn't it? So in some situations, a devotee can also take help from demigods. Like, to give an example, if let's say someone has done a black magic on a devotee. Okay, someone has done a black magic on a devotee. Now that devotee has to be cured from this problem. So then we can definitely take our help of another tantric who is the worshipper of Durga Devi, who will do some puja to Durga Devi to help this devotee come out of the problem because of black magic. So in that case, that devotee's devotion will not be considered impure devotion. That is still pure devotion. Because in some situations, when the help is taken from the demigod, but not with the idea that the demigod is a supreme Lord, it's just some help I'm taking. It will help me in my Krishna consciousness. Again, it is a temporary solution, for a temporary problem. Right? So it's we do take that when required. Like, to give an example, one devotee from Gopinath temple, very nice devotee, amazing devotee. He went to South India with another brahmachari friend of his, and they met this great sannyasi from South India, from Madhva line, a pure devotee of Krishna, definitely. So this devotee told that sannyasi, I have too much problem related to my mind. So then that sannyasi said, okay, he might be becoming humble. So he said, no, you chant your Krishna Nam and Krishna Nam will help you. And so he said, no, I am really having troubles with my mind. So then that Madhva sannyasi said, so then you chant, 108 times Om Namah Shivaya at night. When you go to sleep, you chant Om Namah Shivaya. So this devotee got bewildered. You are a pure devotee of Krishna and you are asking me to chant Shiva's mantra. Why? No, you are pure devotee. Why you are asking me to chant Shiva's mantra? So later on, when he clarified, then the devotee, that sannyasi, mentioned, because from you, it seemingly appeared to me that you have so much trouble with your mind that you might be haunted by some ghost or something like that. So then I gave you the cure. You chant Shiva's name, not whole day, just one mantra for that particular problem, till the time that problem gets solved. I give you that solution, And it's not going to go against your pure devotional service, because your Ishtadev is Krishna and Krishna is Supreme Lord for you. Just for some moment of, some period in your life while you're going through a problem, you are taking help from someone else. Just like you go to a shop, you give 100 rupees note and you say, give me 1 kilo of atta. Simple. It's a deal. It's a business deal. It's a transaction, right? So the same thing we do with the demigods. I do this for you, you solve this problem. So that it helps me to become a better devotee of Krishna. Now this thing only devotees can understand. Because there is a difference in transaction, an official transaction, then bhakti. Bhakti is from the heart, This is official transaction. That's like you go to any shop, give a 100 rupee note and say, give me in return this. So like that, devotees can take help from the demigods, and devotees do take help from the demigods. Those are pure devotees, they always take help from the demigods, to their wonderful services to Krishna. But because we are not at that level, we don't. But if it's required, then it can be done. There's nothing wrong in that. No harm in that. In some situations it can be done. Why? Because after all, they are also Krishna's devotees. So just like in the ISKCON movement, you take help from other devotees who are not pure devotees. So similarly, why not take help from demigods? Because they are also, after all, devotees of Krishna. Right? We do take help from devotees, who may not also be pure devotees. So like that, to solve a temporary problem, it can be done, but then it should be done under the guidance. It should be done under the guidance of the superiors. So this thing is not against pure devotional service. It is okay. It is acceptable. Srila Prabhupada, he made it very clear that no demigod worship should be allowed in ISKCON, just because Prabhupada knew that these people with such very immature level of understanding will then begin thinking everything is one. Everything is one. People will start thinking like that. Otherwise, if you look at the traditional ancient temples in India, all the Vishnu temples, in the center there is Vishnu temple, but all surrounding the Vishnu temple, you'll find other demigods. Right? There is a general style you'll see. Why? Because the demigods are worshipped along with Vishnu as servants of Vishnu. You serve to Vishnu, then you serve the demigods, consider them as servant of Vishnu. But then Prabhupada in ISKCON, if you do that, then all these people, they will just make it a hodgepodge Hindu temple. That's why only Krishna. Only Krishna. But that doesn't mean that we don't really accept the authority of the demigods. We don't accept their help when needed, right? We do accept whenever required. We do accept their help. Okay, let's move on. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Yes, please read someone from there.
May I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Madhvacharya.
It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita 7.23 that the worshippers of the demigods can go to the planets of the demigods. The moon worshippers can go to the moon, the sun worshippers to the sun, etc. Modern scientists are now venturing to the moon with the help of rockets, but this is not really a new attempt. With their advanced consciousness, human beings are naturally inclined to travel in outer space and to reach other planets, either by spaceships, mystic powers, or demigod worship. In the Vedic scriptures, it is said that one can reach other planets by any one of these three ways. But the most common way is by worshipping the demigod presiding over a particular planet. In this way, one can reach the moon planet, the sun planet, and even Brahmaloka, the topmost planet in the universe. However, all planets in the material universe are temporary residences. The only permanent planets are Vaikuntha Lokas. These are found in the spiritual sky, where the personality of Godhead himself predominates. As Lord Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita 8.16, Abrahma bhuvanaloka punaravritti norjuna mamupetyatu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again.
Read Madhvacharya.
Continue?
Yeah.
Okay. Sri Ishopanishad points out that one who worships the demigods and attains to the material planets still remains in the darkest region of the universe. The whole universe is covered by the gigantic material elements. It is just like a coconut covered by a shell and half filled with water. Since its covering is airtight, the darkness within is dense, and therefore the sun and moon are required for illumination. Outside the universe is a vast and unlimited Brahma-jyoti expansion, which is filled with Vaikuntha Lokas. The biggest and the highest planet in the Brahma-jyoti is Krishna Loka, or Goloka Vrindavana, where the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna himself, resides. Lord Sri Krishna never leaves Krishna Loka, although he dwells there with his eternal associates. He is omnipresent throughout the complete material and spiritual cosmic manifestations. This fact has already been explained in Mantra 4. The Lord is present everywhere, just like sun, yet he is situated in one place, just as the sun is situated in its own undeviating orbit.
Yes, Madhvacharya. Someone else can read the further.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare.
Sure.
May I read, Prabhuji?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
The problems of life cannot be solved simply by going to the moon planet or to some other planet above or below it. Therefore, Sri Ishopanishad advises us not to bother with any destination within this dark material universe, but to try to get out of it and reach the effulgent kingdom of God. There are many pseudo worshippers who become religionists only for the sake of name and fame. Such pseudo religionists do not wish to get out of this universe and reach the spiritual sky. They only want to maintain the status quo in the material world under the grab of worshipping the Lord. The atheist and the impersonalist lead such foolish pseudo religionists into the darkest regions by preaching the cult of atheism. The atheist directly denies the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the impersonalists support the atheist by stressing the impersonal aspect of the Supreme Lord. Thus far, we have not come across any mantra in Sri Ishopanishad in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead is denied. It is said that he can run faster than anyone. Those who are running after other planets are certainly persons, and if the Lord can run faster than all of them, how can he be impersonal? The impersonal conception of the Supreme Lord is another form of ignorance arising from an imperfect conception of the absolute truth. Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Hare Krishna. So this is very important what Prabhupada mentioned here. Actually, impersonalism leads to atheism. Gradually. As I stop accepting God's form, then soon I'll also stop accepting God's existence. So impersonalism will lead to atheism. And how impersonalism will come? Frustration in devotional service can lead to impersonalism. If Srila mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam in one place, a frustrated devotee can become an impersonalist. And an impersonalist will soon turn out to be an atheist, gradually. Why? Because that person is not able to feel the mercy of Krishna, feel the kindness of Krishna. So then that person becomes an impersonalist. Impersonalist means to not have faith in Krishna's personal reciprocation. That is an impersonalist, basically. And when one doesn't have that faith in Krishna's personal reciprocation, one starts thinking, why should I then deal with Krishna in a personal manner? Let me also become impersonal to Krishna. And then slowly, then that person stops accepting Krishna's existence completely. This happens gradually. It doesn't happen immediately. So for those who are in Krishna consciousness, it's very important to always keep the spirits high. And if it is going low, then one needs to take proper association and reframe one's mindset. Because frustration in devotional service means we may later on start thinking that, well, it is all good. This process is very nice, but then it doesn't work for me. It's working for others. It doesn't work for me. Maybe I'm so bad, or maybe Krishna is not kind on me, or maybe, not this life. I'm not meant to go back to God in this life. So it's not working for me. And in that way, a person starts going astray from the movement, from the association. Slowly, that person gets drifted away from the association. And as soon as that happens, then that person falls into materialistic life. So this is a primary reason why so many people, they come to the fold of bhakti and then they leave. Because they don't get the derived, and they don't get the desired satisfaction. And then they start thinking this process doesn't work. It may be any reason why they came to this conclusion. They may think maybe my past sinful actions were so bad that, the reactions are very heavy, that's why. Or my samskars are so bad. Or it's a problem of the institute, right? No institute, no problem. So it's problem of the institute. Or it's because the present gurus are not so pure. Or this temple is not good. Or the temple management is not good. So the mind will give many reasons. It can be one of the 1,000 different kinds of reasons. But the whole point is, I am not happy in Krishna consciousness. And when that happens, then what happens? Slowly, this thought starts coming in. Is Krishna really there? Is Krishna God? Does Krishna listen to my prayers? Does Krishna really help me? And this then puts the seed of impersonalism. That, okay, God is there, but then he is there and I'm here. That's all. No relationship. And slowly then the person gets more and more drifted away. So this is how, sometimes people think how these people become such staunch atheists. Well, we never know. Those people might be theists at some time. But then they had some experience and they didn't see it in the proper light. And then they turned into an atheist. And it is, the borderline is very, very thin, actually. The borderline is very, very thin. It's not that there's huge difference, gulf of difference. It's a very thin borderline. So here, Prabhupada says impersonalism will then later on turn into a theism. So the impersonalists, they though may preach a lot and speak a lot about God, but then their thoughts, their writings, explanations gradually take people away from God, because they then deny God's personal existence. They only appreciate God's impersonal powers. That's all. Now, when you start focusing too much on the power of someone, then these questions start coming in mind. If God is kind, why he created a world which is full of evil? Right? Then such things keep on coming in mind, because you are too much focusing on God's powers, but you are not focusing on the other thing, which is what? God's compassion, God's kindness. You're not focusing on that. You're focusing only on the power aspect. So if God is powerful, why can't God do this? Why can't God do that? Why is there so much problem in his creation? Why he did this? Why he did that? But if you look at God's compassion aspect, then these questions don't come up. Then one will be amazed. Oh, Krishna did this, Krishna did that. Then there will be amazement, because one is looking at Krishna's compassionate aspect. He's a person, he has feelings, he feels for us. He cares for us. He loves us, right? So these are very subtle things which happen actually. There is a very subtle things which happen, and which decides where the person is going and in which direction the person's spiritual life is moving. Next paragraph, someone please read. No one to read?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, ma'am. Which paragraph are we at?
The ignorant.
Okay. Yes, Mataji, read now.
Read.
Hare Krishna. The ignorant pseudo-religionists and the manufacturers of so-called incarnations who directly violate the Vedic injunctions are liable to enter into the darkest region of the universe, because they mislead those who follow them. These impersonalists generally pose themselves as incarnations of God to foolish persons who have no knowledge of Vedic wisdom. If such foolish men have any knowledge at all, it is more dangerous in their hands than ignorance itself. Such impersonalists do not even worship the demigods according to the scriptural recommendations. In the scriptures, there are recommendations for worshipping demigods under certain circumstances. But at the same time, these scriptures state that there is normally no need for this. In the Bhagavad Gita 7.23, it is clearly stated that the results derived from worshipping the demigods are not permanent. Since the entire material universe is impermanent, whatever is achieved within the darkness of material existence is also impermanent. The question is how to obtain real and permanent life.
Yeah. Now, this is something very important for us to know. The question is about how to obtain real and permanent life. The temporary objects can be used as long as they don't become an obstacle in our attraction towards permanent. The temporary objects can be used as long as they don't become an obstacle in attaining the permanent. And whenever we see something temporary is holding us back, then that thing has to be given up. That thing has to be renounced. So the whole concept of Yukta Vairagya comes in, that we are not against anything, because everything can be used in Krishna's service. But then when do we go against externally when it comes to something? When we see that though this thing can be used in Krishna service, but for me, it is becoming an obstacle and I'm not able to use this in Krishna service. So that's why I give it up. You know, I give it up. But when I become qualified to use it in Krishna service, I take it up again. So that's how, that's the whole thing. It lies on an individual to decide that with the help of the superiors. How much can I use temporary things in Krishna Seva and how much I cannot? Like, to give an example, popularity is a big obstacle in Krishna consciousness. Why? Because if you're popular, then we start thinking, I'm needed in this world. So let us stay in this world. I'm popular, which means people need me. So people need me, that means let me stay in this world. Why to go out of this world? Right? So if a person is attracted to that popularity, for that person, that popularity is a big danger. Stay away. But for a person who is not affected by that popularity and the foresight is fixed on the permanent, then that person can use that popularity to preach more. Isn't it? That same person can use that popularity to preach more Krishna consciousness. So this is the sutra. If the temporary is taking away our attention from the permanent, one has to plan how to give it up. Give it up for some days, for some weeks, for some months. All right? And then gradually when we become qualified and advanced enough, then we use the same thing in Krishna service. You know, same thing. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakura gave away so much and later on used all that again in Krishna service. Yeah? He gave up everything he gave, and then he went to Mayapur, living in one that small kutia and eating once a day. That also what? Boiled rice. Only boiled rice. Imagine. No salt also. Only boiled rice. Once in a day from the floor, not even from a plate, from the floor. Right? Eating once in a day. And then that same person after some years comes wearing a suit, you know, and such expensive costumes, moving in cars. At that time, only 2 people in the whole country had 6-door car. One was Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, and the other was, I don't remember who, but there was another person. Only 2 people had 6-door car in which they moved around. And what was Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur? So he used such an expensive car, you know, to move around, 6-door car. So, but what was his tapasya? Eating once in a day from the floor, off the floor. Right? Later on, use the same thing for preaching Krishna consciousness. So, like that, this is one for one to decide. How much is it distracting me? Right? Like we see some devotees in our movement who are brahmacharis. They get very much distracted with smartphones. So they don't use smartphones. They use the small phone, you know, which has no internet connection and no touchpad, nothing. Because they get easily distracted from it. So be away, keep aloof, life will go easily, right? Like that we have to decide, you know, anything comes as a distraction, we keep it away. Not that you are giving it away for life. Now, whole life I'm not going to use it. No. For that period of time. So that I can reorient my focus on what is permanent. And then I come back. Same thing should be done by us in regular basis. Like sometime if you start observing, my number of hours that I'm spending on electronic devices is becoming too much. Mobile phone or computer or things like that. And it is taking away my time for sadhana, Krishna consciousness. Then do one thing, take a break from this device for 1 week. Just 1 week. You know, that for 1 week, I'm not going to use this device. Nothing will happen, serious. Nothing will happen, right? 1 week break. And in that 1 week, we try to reorient our attention on the permanent. You know, and after that is done, then come back, use it again. So like that, this thing has to be kept as a balance. that my attention on the permanent should not go away. It should always remain there. It should not go away. If anything is becoming a distraction, then deal with it right now. And then come back to the permanent. In that way, we will always remain fixed on permanent. Next paragraph, someone please read. Param Kandi Mataji, you had raised hand, you can read.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The Lord states that as soon as one reaches Him by devotional service, which is the one and only way to approach the personality of Godhead, one attains complete freedom from the bondage of birth and death. In other words, the path of salvation from the material clutches fully depends on the principles of knowledge and detachment gained from serving the Lord. The pseudo-religionists have neither knowledge nor detachment from material affairs, for most of them want to live in the golden shackles of material bondage under the shadow of philanthropic activities disguised as religious principles. By a false display of religious sentiments, they present a show of devotional service while indulging in all sorts of immoral activities. In this way, they pass as spiritual masters and devotees of God. Such violators of religious principles have no respect for the authoritative acharyas, the holy teachers in the strict disciplic succession. They ignore the Vedic injunction, Acharyopasana, one must worship the Acharya, and Krishna's statement in the Bhagavad Gita 4.2, 𝗵𝗶𝗆 This supreme science of God is received through the disciplic succession. Instead, to mislead the people in general, they themselves become the so-called acharyas, but they do not even follow the principles of the acharyas.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. This is very essential actually, and this has to be nicely practiced by all. You see, just like if Lord Krishna at present comes to this world, all the people of this world should give attention to Krishna because he deserves that. Not just ordinary human beings, even the great demigods, they should give attention to Krishna. Likewise, if they are pure devotees of Krishna present on the planet, it's the duty of all the living entities present on the planet to give them the due attention and respect. Because they are not ordinary people. Pure devotees of Krishna who are coming from Golok Vrindavan, they are much greater than even Brahma and Shiva. They are much greater than those powerful personalities. So when they are present, it's not that it's optional. We give them attention or we don't give them attention. We give them respect and we don't give them respect. Every living entity is bound to give them the required respect because they are way high. They are way high, you know. And when people don't give respect to them, then it's an offense. It's aparadha. Those who are sincere, they know it. Those who are not, they neglect it. They neglect it. So when Srila Prabhupada was present on planet, I'll tell you a story. When Srila Prabhupada was present on planet, before he went to the West, he was in India. Then, he goes to the West. And suddenly in the Western countries, he has all these young boys and girls who come to him. At that time, the whole Western world, specifically America, they were looking for spiritual life, some way or other, right? They were not any kind of people. They were actually very, very spiritually inclined people. That 1960s of America. So we come to know about His Holiness Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj. He was a student at a university. He had got scholarship and he was a student at Princeton University, one of the most prestigious universities in US. And he, from his childhood, had interest in spiritual life. As a child, he was going to church, giving sermons at the church, So he chose one tantric, I would say, tantric, a Sufi tantric, Muslim, as his guru. So this Sufi person who was quite a decent person, very much sattvic, not the black tantric, the white tantra. So was very much sattvic, would teach yoga techniques to Srila Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj, and also teach him some methods of healing the people by psychic powers and those things like that. So when Bhaktivinoda Maharaj told him that I want to accept you as my guru, you be my guru. So then that person, though he's a Sufi, he's not Muslim, not even Hindu. So he said, no, your guru is someone else. I am not your guru. So then Bhaktivinoda Maharaj asked, who's my guru? So then he gave him the book Sri Ishopanishad and said, the author of this book is your guru. So then Maharaj read the book Sri Ishopanishad. This is the first book which Bhaktivinoda Maharaj read, and that's how he came to Krishna consciousness. So then he met Srila Prabhupada, took initiation, then wonderful disciple he became. And then sometimes he used to go and visit this guru also, Sufi guru, and just cordial meetings, say thanks and how you are. After Srila Prabhupada left the planet, so at that time, there were many problems in ISKCON for after Prabhupada left, because very natural. Suddenly, someone who has so much of influence on the society leaves, then things will go haywire. People will be confused. There will be clash of opinion. And so 1977 to 1990, these 13 years was a big mess, actually, in ISKCON history. Big mess. Then 10 years took to clear it off. And in 2000, then ISKCON started coming in the positive side. So that time there was a lot of problems in ISKCON happened at that time. So Bhaktivinoda Maharaj felt, well, now whom to approach for help? My spiritual master is not present, and all my God brothers and God sisters are my age, similar experience. So we need to go to a better person. So he thought, I have that my guru, Sufi guru, who was quite advanced, in Ashtanga mysticism. So he went to that Sufi guru. And as soon as he went there and revealed his mind and said, I want you to help me, that Sufi priest, he shouted at Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj. And he said, do you want me to commit offense at the lotus feet of your guru? Do you want me to commit offense at the lotus feet of your guru? He said, you have taken shelter of someone very high. You have taken shelter of someone very high, and you will get all the help from that person. Now, if you come to me for help, you are actually showing disrespect to that person, because I am no one in front of him. And then that Sufi person said, when your spiritual master landed on this planet, landed on this country, this is now, just imagine, we don't know how things work on the higher realm. We are ordinary people, we don't know these things. But what this Sufi person told, he said, when your spiritual master landed on this country, he put his feet on this country, he sent out a call to all the spiritual teachers of the world, come and help me. I have come, you come and help me. And he said, it is our duty that we should all have gone and helped him. Why? Because he is the master of all the masters. And when he came, we were supposed to put our head at his feet and accept him as the supreme master. So when he came, that time, in my heart, I resigned my position as guru. And I decided, anyone comes to me to become my disciple, I'll send to this person, because he is the most qualified. And Prabhupada is mentioning the same thing here, Acharya Upasana, that all the spiritual leaders of the world, they should accept the position, the position which belongs to the Acharya, and give due respect to that. That there is an Acharya, pure devotee of Krishna, and they should accept that. But because these people, they want their own following, instead of passing that honor to the pure devotee, they take it, they steal it away. They steal it away. So this story is so interesting, which shows us that how Srila Prabhupada's position is so high, that someone who is not even from a Vaishnava, who is from Muslim background, he is understanding that level of Prabhupada and is surrendering to that. So he said, my duty was to bring you to him. Now he will take care of you. Same thing goes for us. We should acknowledge the presence of such great personalities even in the present on the planet, and we should give them due respect, mentally, physically, to all the pure devotees who are present on the planet. That is not optional. That is how it should be. Just like, as I mentioned, if Krishna comes on the planet, it's not optional that people bow down to him. They should bow down to him. Likewise, Acharya Upasana, it is not optional. It is mandatory. Mandatory. And another very important point, that all pure devotees have to be worshipped, not just my own Diksha Guru. No, not just my own Siksha Guru. All the pure devotees of Krishna, they should be worshipped. They should be given that due honor and respect. If we are worshipping our spiritual master, but if we commit offense to another pure devotee of Krishna, we are going to hell. Our Guru will not be able to save us. He cannot save us. So this mentality has to be developed, that it is that due respect has to be shown to all. That's why when we go to Mayapur, this is wonderful culture there, which has been taught to the devotees in Mayapur. In Mayapur, the devotees, they call all the Diksha Gurus Guru Maharaj. They don't just call their own Diksha Guru Guru Maharaj. They will say Srila 𝗵𝗵𝗿𝗲 Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti-Charu Guru Maharaj, Srila Gopal Krishna Goswami Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti-Tirtha Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti-Vikas Guru Maharaj. They'll say Guru Maharaj to all the devotees who are Diksha Gurus. They'll address, and they will give respect also like that, because that person is acting at that level. So how then we say, okay, this person is mine, then what about that belongingness? That belongingness should be inside. That belongingness should be inside, not outside. Outside, it should be equal respect for all. But inside, yeah, for this person, I feel more. There is a special relationship, But for outside, for all. Just like in any big joint family, we have seen this, and you must have also seen this. Let's say in a big joint family, there are 5 brothers or 10 brothers. So you'll see the wife of any of this brother will serve all of them with the same attention and respect. Right? But then there is a special belongingness to one's own husband. But will serve all the brothers with same attention and respect, because it's one family. Likewise, our respect for all the pure devotees should be there, because Acharya Upasana, it's not just for my own Guru. It's for all. That mood should be there. And personal belongingness is for one. That's how it is. That is internal. That is inside the heart. That with this person I connect more. This person has helped me more to, make progress in Krishna consciousness. This person has taken my responsibility. If we do this, if we just apply this one thing, which generally is not seen, but if you apply this one thing, you see your Krishna consciousness will be much faster. You'll get mercy from all directions. You'll get help from all directions. It's going to work. Just try it once. If you develop that approach or that mood, you will see that Krishna consciousness will be much more rapid for you. Because you are taking the flow of mercy from every direction. Otherwise, what we are doing is we are limiting the flow of mercy. We are limiting the flow because of our, narrow thinking. But then that mercy is coming from everywhere. Again, giving the example, sometimes you may have a problem and you may not be comfortable to discuss with your father. At that time, your father's younger brother can help you. It happens in normal family life also. right? Or father is not in the situation to help, but father's younger brother can help. Likewise, in a spiritual family, this is how it works. This is how it works. Very much like a team. It's not one person alone. And the more we understand that, and the more we make our mindset for that, you will see you will get help from so many different directions in your Krishna consciousness, and will never feel that I am not getting help, I am alone. No, we'll feel always connected, because Krishna then will have all the channels to send us mercy. Otherwise, we block the channels. We say mercy can come from this door only. That's how the Christians also say. Only Jesus can save you, no one else. You know? And then we may replace Jesus with our Diksha Guru. Only my Diksha Guru can save. No one else. Isn't it? So then we are blocking the mercy. So this thing has to be understood here. Acharya Upasana, very important point. And the more we focus on this thing, the more we'll have wonderful realizations in Krishna consciousness. Acharya Upasana, because our whole process is we want to become a servant of a servant of a servant of these great devotees of Krishna. That's the whole process. That's what makes Gaudiyas, right? There are many Vaishnavas, but the speciality of Gaudiya Vaishnavism is that we don't want to become a devotee of Krishna directly. No. For that, this sampradaya is not there. You know, we want to become devotees of devotees of devotees of Krishna. For that, Gaudiya Vaishnavism. If we have interest in becoming direct devotee of Krishna, then Gaudiya Vaishnavism is not for that. You know, the whole process is I become devotee of a devotee of Krishna. Isn't it? So Krishna Bhakti, but more important than that is Guru Bhakti. Vaishnava Seva. That is the mood of the Gaudiyas, as we learn from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, and this thing will take us to that highest real goal of Vrindavan. That mood allows us to enter there, which is nowadays, you know, because our preaching is of a different kind, we don't emphasize on this so much. But in the earlier days of our movement, this thing was really, really emphasized. A lot it was emphasized. Devotion towards spiritual master, devotion towards exalted Vaishnavas. So now it is not being so much emphasized because new people don't always understand it properly. But then there should be a time in our spiritual life when we start understanding the importance of this thing. You know? We start understanding this thing. It's very essential. Without this, we will not make the progress that we generally think we want to have, going back to Godhead and entering into all those different esoteric things. Without this, not possible, not at all possible. This is very much needed. Next paragraph, someone please read.
May I, Prabhuji?
Yes, Madhvacharya.
These rogues in human society are the most dangerous elements, and for want of religious government, they pass on without being punished by the law of the state. They cannot, however, avoid the law of the Supreme, who has clearly declared in the Bhagavad Gita that these envious demons in the garb of religious propagandists shall be thrown down into the darkest region of hell. It is confirmed in Sri Ishopanishad that the pseudo-religionists are heading toward the most obnoxious place in the universe after finishing with the spiritual mastership business, which is simply for the matter of sense gratification. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we'll discuss no, it's time now. Stop. Any questions?
Prabhu, that was too abrupt.
No, it's time, so we'll stop. Questions? Please.
Yes. Prabhu, may I?
Yes, ma'am.
Prabhu, in the course you said those who go for impersonal form of the Lord, they are likely to turn to an atheist. But both, like Krishna has both, he has impersonal aspect and he has personal aspect. So both the aspects should take us towards him, no, Prabhu. Like why should it repel?
So here when Prabhupada talks about the impersonalists who will likely turn into atheists, he's not talking about Brahmavadis. The word impersonalist refers to two kinds, Brahmavadis and mayavadis. So he's not talking about Brahmavadis. Brahmavadis get positive upgradation. He's talking about mayavadis, who take the downward path, the negative road, the downside. The Brahmavadis, they can get promotion. So for them, this verse comes in Bhagavad Gita. When Arjuna asks, what is the difference between these two in chapter 12? Krishna says, the impersonalist also comes to me at last, achieves me. Isn't it? So that is for Brahmavadi, not for Mayavadi. So the Brahmavadi is someone who is an impersonalist, but who does not offend the personal existence of the Lord. Mayavadi is someone who offends the personal existence of the Lord, disrespects the personal existence of the Lord. Brahmavadi is who says, okay, God has a form, fine, very nice, but then I like the impersonal aspect more. But Mayavadi says, God cannot have a personal form. And if God has a personal form, that is Maya. To make it simple to understand, you may like gulab jamun, right? But then it doesn't mean that I should criticize rasgulla. I can say rasgulla is a sweet, it's a good sweet, but I like gulab jamun. So Brahmavadi will say like that. God has a form, okay, but I am more inclined towards impersonal now, as of now, right? And Mayavadi will say that personal form is Maya, which is like saying gulab jamun is very nice, rasgulla is garbage. So then that is an offense to rasgulla and those who eat rasgullas, isn't it? It's an offense to rasgulla and those who eat rasgullas. So likewise, when the Mayavadi says that personal form of Lord is Maya, it is an offense to Krishna and devotees of Krishna, because they appreciate the personal form of Krishna. So Brahmavadis will make progress. Yeah, no problem.
Prabhu, may I ask corollary question?
Yes.
Actually, like philosophy-wise, so many things appear, but I try to connect the things to my own experience. And I remember, like in my right from childhood, we were like not practicing Krishna consciousness as such, but then we come from a pious background. So I had my own notion, how can Krishna be confined to a form? He's so great, he's so big. Like the magnitude does not let us confine him in a Murta Roop. So that was the thing which was stopping. And I was a hardcore impersonalist, as we may say. But then down the line, I came to this, but it's not the way, like as you're explaining Brahmavadi as such. It's not that. It was like there was a block in me. No, he's so big. How can he be confined in a form? Because for us, form is something which restricts. And impersonalism is something which just lets you expand. And there's no limit to it. So just explain it, Prabhu.
No, you see, the thing is, that is lack of knowledge, what you are saying is. That's called lack of knowledge. So
Yes.
that is Brahmavad. That's not Mayavad.
Oh.
What is Brahmavad? Incomplete realization of God. So when you say, how can God be confined in this limited form? That is your incomplete knowledge. When you got the complete knowledge, then you accepted it. So Brahman realization means incomplete realization. which means what? That person is not yet so developed. So there is incomplete. But then when that person gets an opportunity to be more developed, that person accepts it. But mayavadi means what? That person knows Krishna has form, but I won't accept. Why? Because of envy. If Krishna has a form, Krishna is enjoyer. And I will be enjoyed by Krishna. I don't want that. I don't want to support Krishna in his enjoyment because there is envy. So you deny that person the form.
Yes. It's
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Brahmavadis, yes, people are there, Brahmavadis. But they are not, they are like innocent people. Brahmavadis are innocent people. So when Prabhupada says impersonalists will go to hell, he's not talking about Brahmavadis, he's talking about mayavadis. Because in English, both Brahmavadi and Mayavadis is only one word, impersonalist. In Sanskrit, there are two words, Brahmavadi and Mayavadi. Okay. Any other question? Or we shall stop here. We have time. If someone wants to ask, we can take 5-10 minutes more.
Also, Prabhu, just to elaborate on the previous point, we also have to consider the form of the Lord is not the form that we see. It is a spiritual form.
That is true. So that knowledge has come to us, no? That the form is not material, it is spiritual. That before we had knowledge of only material form. We thought form means it has to be a material form. But then we developed one more understanding that there's a possibility for spiritual form. Isn't it? That knowledge came to us. That knowledge helped us understand there can be a form which is beyond the material limit. So that knowledge, that is the extra knowledge that helped us understand. So we accept it, but the mayavadi will not accept it.
Yes, sir.
This knowledge is making our realization complete. Before we had incomplete knowledge. Now it is more complete. So we accept. And with, yes, Mataji, please say.
Prabhuji, Brahmavadi example is Char Kumar and Sukdev Goswami ji, right?
Yes, Mataji. They are Brahmavadis. 4 Kumaras, Sukdev Goswami, they are Brahmavadis. They are not Mayavadis. But then in English, Prabhupada will call them also impersonalists. So they are Brahmavadis.
So, Prabhuji, I had a question on the previous lectures. So, when we talked about Jiva, he's 78% complete. But when the Lord takes a form, like say Datta Maharaj or anybody, so is that considered Jiva or it's
No, it depends on which incarnation you're talking about. Because Krishna has 6 kinds of incarnations, no? So if Krishna's Shakti Avesh avatar is there, that is a Jiva.
Okay.
When it is Shakti Avesh avatar, it's a Jiva who has been given extraordinary Shakti. That's why it's called Shakti Avesh avatar. To give an example, Vyasadeva. To give an example, Prithu Maharaj. To give an example, Narad Muni. These are Shakti Avesh avatars, means they are Jivas. They are not Vishnu Tattva, they are Jiva Tattva. But then Jiva Tattva endowed with extraordinary powers. But then other category of incarnations of Krishna, they are not Jivas then. They are Vishnu Tattva.
okay.
The other 5, which comes, they are Vishnu Tattva.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, Prabhuji. So, well, with this point which I mentioned, there's one more thing, a good lesson for us to take. In Krishna consciousness, there is a scope of variety. We can choose, like if you like to hear classes of a particular devotee, good. If you like to eat a particular kind of prasadam, no problem. If you want to read a particular book, no problem. So, particular color you like, particular deity you like, particular, you have more attraction to particular holy place, anything, all allowed. But the other thing has to be very much taken care of. What is that? Our like for some aspect of Krishna consciousness should not be accompanied with a dislike for other aspect of Krishna consciousness. That disliking should not be there. Which means we can say, this prasadam is very nice, I like it. But we can never say, that prasadam is bad. One has to stay safe from that. Because that is what mayavadis do. They say impersonal form of God, very good. Personal form of God, put it to the trash. So that thing we have to take care of. Now, okay, I like to do book distribution, very nice. But I cannot say Pujari Seva. No, it's not good Seva. You know? So this thing has to be learned. Then we will not commit aparadh. There's all scope of having your choice, have your like, your personal taste. But then the other aspect of Krishna consciousness, which we are not able to so much appreciate, we should not criticize it, find fault with that, you know. Then that will save us. Then Mayavadis, they do this mistake actually. Brahmavadis, they don't do this mistake. Brahmavadis say, personal form, nice, but I like impersonal form more. Mayavadis, they say, impersonal form, nice. Personal form, not needed. So same thing in our practice of Krishna consciousness, we need to adopt. What we like, and you appreciate it, you speak about it, you experience it. What you don't like so much, don't talk bad about it. Leave it alone, you know. So that way we say remain safe. Okay, 2 hands up. Paramkandi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question is regarding the story that you just told us, the 2 devotees. So one of the devotee you mentioned was affected by some black magic. So my question is devotees, do they get affected by black magic?
Yes, if they are not pure devotees.
Okay.
They get affected. If they are not pure devotees, they will get affected by black magic. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, I have to say something, but before that, I'm just responding. When we read Prabhupada's Leelamrita, we come to know that even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they were all running fever when Bhaktivinoda Thakura went to face.
Yeah.
So they are pure devotees, my Prabhu. So how do we understand that?
So in that situation, it is a lesson for us. It's a teaching for us. It's not that they will be affected. It's not that Bhaktivinoda Thakura has to get affected. He's just teaching a lesson. That even if you are affected, you don't leave your faith on Krishna. So pure devotees, they don't get affected. It's their leela. It's their pastime. Yes. You know, for a person who is not a pure devotee, that thing comes, effect comes.
Actually, Prabhu, when you were making the last observation, how we have to be inclusive of everything. So that statement just reminded me of my past, and I really want to thank you. We see, so we categorize so many things under positive and negative. But as far as those things push us towards Krishna consciousness, as push us towards the Lord in some way, it is all positive. For example, in my own case, I remember it was because of my experiences with ghost that I came to this. So I'm still, till date, I'm so thankful to that ghost. Oh, good that you troubled me. I came to this. So I was just thinking so many things can push us towards that. We generally we have a habit of dismissing dreams, but it was through dreams and vision that I actually got the instruction, okay, this is where I have to go. And I was thrown out from Ramakrishna Mission Ashram. They said, we are not able to answer. You go to ISKCON. Did you go there? So I was actually pushed by so many things, but it's not negative because it all brought me here where I should be. So thank you so much.
Anything is there which is helping me to become a devotee is a good thing. If falling down from the path of Krishna consciousness will help me to become a better devotee, that is also welcome. Yes, that is also welcome, right? So a devotee who has fallen and who has risen up, that is never considered fallen. A devotee who has fallen, who has risen up, is never considered fallen, because that fall was only an opportunity to rise with greater strength, right? So Krishna will do that with us. He will make us go down, he will make us go up, he will make us see the bad days, he will make us see the good days. But a devotee knows all this is for going back to Godhead. So everything is fine. As they say, everything is fair in love and war, right? So here, this is the question of pure love. So why not everything should be fair? Everything should be fair in this also, isn't it? Everything should be fair. So when we get this understanding, then nothing will shake us from Krishna consciousness. This is called nishtha. What is that? Whether I'm going through hell in life or whether I'm going through good times in my life, I am not going to leave the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. That's nishtha. If you have made up your mind like this, then done. Then bad days, let them come. Good days, let them come. You will only learn and grow. Right? So this nishtha should be there. This resolve we should make someday in our life, that now whatever number of years, weeks, days, seconds are left, right? I've decided that this all goes as a surrendered soul at Krishna's lotus feet, trying to be, but the effort will be in that direction. So when we do that resolve, then you'll see that everything is actually, whether it's bad and good, you'll see it as a miraculous arrangement of Krishna just to help you go back to Godhead. You know, you come to know it after some years, actually, not immediately. After some years, then you come to know. When you see the big picture, then you come to know after some years. Oh, that time was so miserable, but later on, that thing helped me to become such a better devotee. That's going to happen. Okay, we'll end.